I realized too late, hell felt familiar.
I am Marcus Deshaun Walker, 41, from Houston. I was dead for 12 minutes on July 9th, 2021.
My name is Marcus, and for 14 years I stood at the church doors, handed out bulletins, straightened collars, and smiled until my jaw ached. I lived in Houston, Texas. People waved when I walked into the foyer. Mothers trusted me with their children. I opened the doors for the pastor and held the offering tray like it was the only honest thing left in my hands. I told myself that serving meant something, that it made me safe from what I did behind closed doors. I told myself I deserved grace because I served, but the truth was smaller and uglier. I had not forgiven the woman who left me 6 years earlier. I had not healed. I had hidden behind ministry while my heart fed on late-night images and secret messages. I convinced myself it was only relief. I convinced myself it was private. I could not see how private things become prisons. It began the week of our annual night of cleansing revival. The church smelled like lemon oil and old hymnals. I was in charge of the parking lot chairs, lights, directions. I loved the work because it let me move and not talk. Early that morning, at 1:40 a.m., I closed the bedroom door and watched things I promised myself I would stop watching. The screen felt colder than the heat of my shame. After I put the phone down, my hands trembled. I prayed on my knees for 3 minutes because habit told me to pray. I prayed with my mouth. I did not pray with my heart. I whispered, "Not today, not this weekend." Then I lied to myself again. At 9 a.m., I carried stacks of metal chairs across the parking lot. The sun was bright but thin, Houston heat that feels like a wet blanket. I answered a sister who asked about folding the extra chairs. I smiled. I moved. I adjusted the speaker cable. My palms were still sticky with sweat and guilt. My phone buzzed once in my back pocket. A name I had not meant to call up flashed. Just a last-minute text from a woman I had been flirting with in secret. It was a message that laughed at boundaries. I tucked the phone deeper and told myself I would delete the threads tonight. I told myself lies until I believed them. Then the pain came, not slow, but like a hand squeezing the center of my chest. I paused beside a gray sedan. A metal chair slipped from my arms and clanged on the asphalt. The noise sliced through my head and vanished. The voices around me turned muffled, as if someone had put cotton in my ears. Heat rose, but it was not the sun. It was a pressure that pushed against my ribs like an invisible fist. I leaned on the car. My breath shortened into coughs that tasted like pennies. I tried to call out, but the sound in my throat was a dry twig. A sister, Sister Elaine, ran over, face white. She grabbed my shoulder and said, "Marcus? Marcus, breathe." Her voice came from a distance, the way a memory comes from a year you cannot touch. Then everything, my body, my shame, my small private lies, slid away. I watched from above. I saw my chest rise and not rise. My hands looked smaller from this angle, translucent at the edges like glass. People bent over me. Somebody shouted for an ambulance. The neighbors leaned from their porches. Someone pressed a palm to my sternum. I wanted to reach down and pull myself up. I wanted to say my name and tell them I was sorry, but sound did not carry to where I was. Time folded. My life condensed into a handful of small images. Text messages, the smell of lemon oil, the face of the woman who had betrayed me 6 years ago, and each image hit me like a cold slap. Regret is not loud. It is precise. It points to the exact moment you thought you could hide. Then an invisible force grabbed me. Not gentle, not cruel, just certain. It pulled me backward through the parking lot, through the thin asphalt, through the white lines and under the church lights. I felt the ground give way beneath my feet, not as falling, but as being taken. There was no panic at first. There was a hollow recognition, like I had come home to a room I had set on fire. Darkness closed around me like a curtain, but it was not empty. It smelled like metal and sweat and old promises. The sound changed. The revival songs that should have been rising from the fellowship hall were replaced by low, exhausted sobs. No rhythm, no plea, just the sound of people who had used up their cries a long time ago. The air pressed against my face as if someone had wrapped a thick cloth over my mouth. Heat rose from below, not sudden but greedy and slow, the way an unanswered habit eats a life. The first thing that struck me was the familiarity. The shame I tried to lock in rooms and folders had a shape. It knew my name. Shadows moved not randomly, but as if they had been rehearsing the same small humiliations for years. Whispers in the dark, a phone screen lit in the middle of the night, the lie to a friend who asked how I was doing. Faces floated in the smoke, blurred, silent, each one carrying a single thread back to the moment they convinced themselves the thing was small. The silence was not peace. It was weight. It rested on my shoulders like a mantle I had allowed myself to wear. I thought of how I had sat on the front pew and corrected people who fumbled scripture. I remembered the way I had put my hand on a baby at dedication and felt holiness rub against my skin like an accusation. I remembered texting a sister after a committee meeting, an innocent joke I told myself, until the jokes became invitations and the invitations became excuses. I remembered watching screens and calling it relief. I realized, with a cold clarity, that my ministry had been a cover. I had been polishing my shine while rust ate at the hinges. Then the voices came, not loud, but exact. They whispered the small, private things I had told nobody. They repeated the excuses I had rehearsed. Nobody has to know. I can stop anytime. I do not hurt anybody. They spoke them as facts. I watched my own hands on the offering tray, felt the warmth of the tape used to fix the worn edge of the hymnals, and felt smallness like a bruise. Shame began to press like a tide. The darkness did not scream. It suggested, pointed. It showed me people not being punished by someone else, but being trapped by the natural consequences of choices repeated and hidden. The faces in the smoke had that look. Empty, finished, like books that had been closed and never opened again. I thought, this is what it costs. Not a dramatic scene, not a movie, a quiet undoing. By the time the darkness tightened, I was not surprised. There was no sudden revelation that felt distant. It felt like truth catching up to me, patient, inevitable. I had been living in two rooms at once, one of light and one of secret shadows. The light had never reached the other room. I understood then that secrets breed patterns and patterns become chains. Then the ground under that dark place shifted and opened like a mouth. The last images before something else, before whatever judgment or meeting waited, were of hands. My hands folded at the usher table, my hands shaking while typing a message, my hands falling to my sides as I lost the use of them. They were ordinary hands that had made ordinary choices. Ordinary choices had led me here. I was not ready. I was tired. I wanted to wake. I wanted to clap my own hands and feel the church carpet beneath my feet. The world where people trusted me felt distant and unreal. The place I was in felt like the sum of every quiet lie I had told myself. The descent was not loud. It was precise. It was a map of a life built on small compromises. Then, before something else could finish me, the darkness shifted in a way that felt like a crack, thin but bright. But that belonged to the next part of the story. Darkness folded around me like wet cloth, tight, close, intentional. There was no sense of falling anymore, just sinking. The ground under my feet changed from nothing to something, a rough, cracked surface that burned without flame. I looked down and saw faint red lines pulsing across the stone, like veins running under skin. The heat rose through the soles of my feet and climbed into my legs, as if the ground was testing how soft my spirit was. I inhaled, and the air scraped my throat like sandpaper. Every breath felt borrowed. The crying I heard earlier grew clearer now, not screams, but the sound of people who had given up on screaming. Low, drained, empty. Cries that carried no hope of rescue. Cries that had settled into acceptance. I walked or moved without feeling my legs. The darkness shifted as I passed through it, almost recognizing me, as if it had memorized my footsteps, long before my body ever collapsed in that parking lot. There were shapes around me at first, faint silhouettes bending, kneeling curled inward, their faces blurred by the thickness of the smoke. No chains, no demons, just souls crushed beneath the weight of their own choices. It was the weight itself that chained them. Something inside me trembled. Not my knees, my thoughts. I tried to call out, to say anything. Hello, please, God. But my voice dissolved the moment it left my mouth, like the air itself refused to carry speech. Then I realized something that made my chest tighten. I was not alone in this place, but I was also not among these souls. I was being shown something, led into something, not yet placed. A silence fell, not peaceful, purposeful. Then a presence appeared beside me, not walking, not arriving, just becoming. I did not see a body. I only felt truth, raw, unfiltered, terrifying truth. It stood next to me the way a memory stands, close enough to swallow the space between us, but without touching. The air thickened, pressing against my chest, until my spirit felt naked, exposed, like every thought I ever hid was now written across my skin. I wanted to turn away, but there was no way to turn to. The presence spoke. Not sound, not vibration, just a voice inside my soul, like every memory had opened its mouth at once. Marcus. Hearing my name made my knees weaken, not because of fear, but because the voice carried knowledge. It was not asking who I was. It was stating who I had always been. I could not breathe. The presence continued, each word heavy enough to bend the air around me. This is what hidden sin becomes. The ground trembled beneath us, and the silhouettes shifted, as if the words awakened their memories. The presence moved, not outward, but deeper into me, until it felt like it was peeling back my thoughts, layer by layer. You lived one life in the open, it said, and another in the shadows. The darkness around us responded, rippling like water disturbed by a stone. The silhouettes lifted their heads in the smoke, as if they recognized the sentence. This place, the presence said, is the end of that road. Something inside me broke. Guilt, fear, shame. A kind of collapse that felt like my spirit was crumbling inward. I tried to cover my face, but my hands passed through the smoke, like I was trying to hide behind a lie. I tried. I whispered, though my voice did not rise above breath. I tried to stop. I tried to change. The presence cut through the excuses gently, without anger, without accusation, yet with a firmness that left no space for denial. You hid what you refused to surrender. My spirit shook. Every late-night scroll, every message I deleted, every moment I told myself, one last time, they rose around me like shapes in the smoke. The presence whispered, truth begins where secrets end. The ground beneath us cracked, a thin, glowing line spreading outward, like a fracture in glass. The heavy air shifted, as if a curtain was sliding open. Then the presence showed me the next layer. The silhouettes became clearer, not fully formed, but enough to see posture, movement, anguish. Each soul was isolated, not punished by a creature, not tormented by a demon, but crushed under the spiritual weight of the exact sin they refused to release. One shape drifted near me, not by choice, but by repetition. Its hands moved as if holding a phone, scrolling endlessly through something that was no longer there. Eyes wide, empty, stuck in the loop it created. Another figure clutched its chest, as if holding bitterness that had grown sharp and physical, the weight so heavy that it bent the shape into the ground. None of them looked at me, not one. They were trapped in the memories they cultivated. Their regrets had become their prisons. The presence spoke again. This is not punishment. The air grew hotter, and the cracks in the stone glowed brighter. This is consequence. My breath trembled. The presence turned toward me, not with eyes, but with awareness. You believed you could manage your shadow life while walking in the light. My heart, or whatever part of me was left, winced. You believed control was repentance. The The words pierced deeper than the heat. You believed secrecy was protection. Then, with a voice that filled the entire realm, nothing hidden survives here. The ground shuddered. Felt it then. Not heat, not fear, but revelation. The kind that strips your excuses bare and shows you what you really look like on the inside. The presence stepped closer, almost merging with the air around me. Marcus, you must see what you became. Before I could respond, before I could beg or deny or defend myself, the smoke parted, like a hand had sliced through it, and I saw something waiting for me, something that would break the rest of my defenses and leave me trembling before the truth. The smoke parted with a slow, heavy motion, like something ancient had just opened its hand. What I saw first was myself, not a ghost, not a memory, not a symbolic vision, my actual life, playing in front of me, like a film made from moments I thought had no witnesses. I stood there, facing myself, and something inside me went cold. The presence whispered, "Look." I tried to look away, but my head locked in place, as if truth itself held my chin. The first image that appeared was small. My bedroom, the glow of my phone screen at 1:40 a.m., the shadows on my wall, the silence of a house that did not know who I had become after midnight. I watched myself scrolling, my face blank, eyes empty, the same expression I denied in the mirror. It was the look of a man, feeding a hunger he called harmless. I whispered, "No, please," but the image expanded. Now it was me as an usher, smiling at the church door, shaking hands, hugging people, praying for visitors, giving spiritual advice, while my private life rotted beneath the surface. The image froze on my smile. It was not a kind smile. It was a cover. The presence spoke. "You learned how to perform righteousness without living in it." My chest tightened. Then another scene opened. Me sitting in my car after service, texting the sister I should have avoided, laughing at jokes that crossed boundaries, typing slowly, thinking I was in control, believing emotional closeness could not become spiritual danger. I saw the exact message that crossed the line, a small, soft compliment that carried the weight of a doorway. I whispered, "I did not mean," but the presence cut gently into my thought. Intentions do not erase consequences. The ground beneath us glowed as the stones cracked further, spreading lines of hot red light across the floor. The next image hit me harder, a memory I avoided for years. I saw the woman who betrayed me 6 years ago. I saw myself replaying the heartbreak over and over, even after she moved on. Bitterness grew in my chest, like a vine twisting around my heart, until I needed something to numb it. The presence spoke again. "This is the wound you refused to heal." The smoke tightened around me, and the heat rose high enough that my spirit trembled like flesh under fire. Then the visions became worse. Not what I did, but what I became because of what I did. I saw myself walking into church, with a Bible in my hand, and a fracture in my soul. I watched people hug me, trust me, ask me to pray for them, all while my own heart was drifting further and further from the God I claimed to serve. Then, the presence shifted. Its tone deepened, not louder, just heavier, like truth increasing its weight. "This," it said, "is the part you must understand." The darkness moved, and a new scene formed. A long, wide space, not a room, not a cave, more like an open chamber of shadow. In the middle, groups of souls were bent under invisible weights. They were not being beaten. They were not being dragged. They were living out the shape of their own inner life. I saw a man hunched over, arms curved inward, as if wrapped around a phone he no longer held. His eyes darted left and right, in an endless search for something he would never find again. The momentary high of forbidden images. He was trapped, not by chains, but by desire that had become eternal hunger. Behind him, Another soul pressed its hands to its ears, shaking violently, still hearing whispers of a life lived in secrecy. Not demonic voices, its own thoughts, echoing the lies it once believed. One more time won't hurt. You can stop whenever you want. Nobody knows. Every lie became a whisper, and the whispers never stopped. Then I saw something worse. I saw the souls who lived double lives, serving God publicly, while hiding darkness privately. They were surrounded by mirrors, not glass, but reflective smoke, showing the version of themselves they presented to the world, and the version God saw beneath the surface. One soul reached out and tried to wipe the mirror clean, scratching at it, begging for the reflection to change. But the smoke stayed. The reflection never moved. The presence whispered, "This is what hypocrisy becomes." I felt something crack inside me, a breaking that felt like humiliation and clarity mixed together. The presence moved closer, and the air around us shook with meaning. "Marcus, sin done in secret does not stay secret. It shapes the soul, until the soul becomes the sin." I closed my eyes, but the memories continued behind my eyelids. I saw myself making excuses. "I am stressed. It is just a weakness. I serve in church. I do not hurt anyone. I will stop later." Every excuse formed a chain, thin at first, but tightening over time, until I saw an image of myself, wrapped in the very habits I once justified. Chains of thought, chains of secrecy, chains of self-deception. The presence spoke with finality. "Nothing bound in darkness can enter the light." Then, the presence turned fully toward me. I felt its gaze, not on my form, not on my memories, but on the core of me, the part one never let anyone see. "Marcus," it said, "this is the truth you refused to face." The ground beneath me opened, just slightly, not enough to fall through, just enough for light to shine upward and illuminate the last part of the vision. Me, standing in church, Bible in my hand, smiling, while carrying a secret that was killing me slowly. The presence whispered one more line, a line that hit harder than fire. "You became comfortable in the shadows." I broke. Something inside me collapsed like a weakened wall. Heat rose around me. Smoke wrapped itself around my spirit, and I felt the full weight of who I had been. I whispered, barely breathing, "What happens to me now?" The presence did not answer immediately. The silence stretched so long that fear crawled up my spine. Then finally, "Now you will learn why you are here." The ground shook violently. The air cracked. The darkness itself folded inward, as if preparing to swallow me. And then, the rupture of light split the realm in half. Not like a crack in a wall, but like something ancient and powerful had drawn a sword through the darkness. The light tore downward, in a single strike, that made the entire ground shudder beneath my feet. The smoke pulled back instantly, curling away as if burned by a fire it could not withstand. I staggered, shielding my face with my hands, but the light passed straight through them, pierced everything, every place inside me that I had kept hidden, every wound, every shadow, every memory I pretended did not matter. The presence of truth beside me grew still, silent, almost reverent, as if someone far greater had just entered the realm. The ground stopped opening. The voices of trapped souls fell quiet, not from peace, but from awe. Even the weight of hell itself seemed to freeze as the light widened and formed a towering column that reached farther than the darkness ever stretched. Something stepped out of that light, not walking, not approaching, just manifesting, as if the very concept of distance did not apply to him. I could not see his face, only the outline of a figure, wrapped in a brightness that felt alive, a brightness that carried authority, so absolute that the darkness bent away without a sound. My spirit shook, not from fear, but from recognition. This was not the presence of truth that had shown me my life. This was the presence of power, of holiness, of the one with final say over souls. The air around him vibrated with a quiet thunder, the kind that humbles mountains and shatters pride. He looked at me, not through eyes, but through knowing, and every part of me felt exposed and simultaneously held. I wanted to fall to my knees, but I had no knees in that form. I wanted to speak, but my voice dissolved. I was nothing before him, and yet I felt him call me by name. Marcus. My entire being trembled. Hearing my name in that voice was like hearing my life spoken back to me. Then he said the words that stopped the realm itself. Your time is not finished. The darkness recoiled, like a creature struck. The ground beneath me sealed shut. In an instant, the cracks cooled. The smoke flattened to the floor, pressed down by a force. Could not resist. He extended his hand. Not physically, not like flesh, but like a force, a pull, a gravity of mercy that wrapped itself around my spirit. With a firmness that felt both fierce and gentle. You will warn them. The moment he spoke those words, hell reacted, not with screams, not with violence, but with a deep, heavy pressure that surged upward, as if trying to drag me back. Felt it, the pull. A spiritual gravity, trying to reclaim what it believed was its own. My legs stiffened. Smoke wrapped around my ankles, like hands, pulling, tightening, trying to lock me in place. The heat surged upward again, rising like a wave, intending to swallow me whole. I gasped, a cry not of fear, but of helplessness, because I realized something horrifying. Hell did not want to let me go. But the one in the light did not step back. He stepped forward. His presence filled the chamber, filled the cracks, filled the shadows, filled the silence, until the entire realm shook like a trembling drum. The smoke around my legs evaporated. The pressure broke, as if snapped by unseen hands. Then that hand, that force, that pull, wrapped around my entire being and yanked me upward, not lifted, not floated, ripped. I shot upward so fast. The darkness stretched like elastic, trying to keep me, and then snapping. The chamber collapsed beneath me, in spiraling shadows. As I ascended, through layers of thick smoke, the cries grew distant. The heat faded, from burning, to warm, to nothing. The speed increased, so violent, my spirit felt like it might tear apart. Wind roared around me, without air. Light spun around my vision, like golden whirlpools. Then, everything froze. I floated in a vast, silent in-between, weightless, suspended, held by the same hand that pulled me from the pit. My entire body, or spirit, felt stretched thin, like the transition between realms was tearing me open and stitching me back together. At the same time, then his voice came again, closer this time, deep enough to make the entire space vibrate. Marcus, what I showed you was not to condemn you. I inhaled sharply. It was to deliver you. Tears, real tears, formed even though I did not have a physical face. You will tell them what darkness does when it is fed in secret. His voice softened, but carried more weight than thunder. You will tell them what almost claimed you. I felt something warm touch the center of my spirit, a touch so profound. I knew it was the same hand that wrote mercy into the world. Do not return to what I delivered you from. Then, without warning, I fell, not downward, not upward. I slammed back into my body, like someone had thrown me from the sky. And that was the moment I woke up. I crashed back into my body like a man thrown against a wall. Air hit my lungs so hard it felt like someone had punched my ribs. My chest convulsed. My throat slammed open and sound came. Raw, animal, auto. A scream that turned into a cough. Then a moan. Then a single prayer I did not plan to speak. Stay with us. Stay with us. Nurses. Hands. Bright lights. A cold sheet at my shoulders. Someone slapped a small device against my chest. A monitor screamed and then steadied into a slow, urgent beeping. I was drowning in light and noise and smell. Antiseptic, coffee, the metallic taste of panic. My tongue felt thick as cotton. My legs were sheets of useless paper beneath me. I tried to move and my hands trembled so much the four-line danced. A woman leaned over me. Sister Elaine's face blurred by pain and relief. "Marcus," she sobbed. "Marcus, you are with us." Her fingers in mine were a rope back to the world. I kept saying one thing, over and over like it was a needle stuck in the groove of my life. I saw it. I saw it. I saw it. Tears came without permission, big, hot, shameful. I could not stop them. I tried to form the words the presence had forced into me. The warnings, the images, the way my own life had played like a film. But my voice broke beside each one. The doctor's face appeared, tight, professional, tired. "Sir, you were dead for 12 minutes, he said. His words were facts. My soul felt like an instrument that had been rewired. They told me later, things I half remembered. A defibrillator, cold hands on my sternum, a prayer circle outside the oar. But the memory I carried was not of machines. It was of heat and smoke and the sound of voices that had no hope. It was of a light that tore through it all and a hand that pulled me out. I lay in that hospital bed and the world smelled different. The lemon oil of the church had been replaced by something cleaner. Fear washed out, leaving honesty in its place. The first thing I did when I could hold a phone again was not what you expect. I opened the messages. Every thread I had hidden. Every joke that turned too long. Every innocent text. I read them like someone reading evidence in a case against himself. My hands shook so much I could not scroll straight. Then I began to act, with the violence of someone who knows the building behind him is burning. I deleted everything. Every image. Every conversation. They were gone in a minute, but the memory of them stayed like a scar. I blocked the sister. I blocked the numbers that led to temptation. I changed passwords. I gave my phone to my pastor and said, "Lock it up. I need help." He did not look at me like a judge. He looked like a man with wounds recognizing wounds. He said, "Marcus, we will walk this with you." He meant it. He stayed. He brought men. He brought truth. He brought accountability. I went to my pastor and I told him everything. Slow, slurred, halting confessions like someone exorcising a memory. I apologized to the church board. I apologized to people I had misled by my smile. I asked forgiveness from the young men I had mentored because I knew I had been a poor map. Then I did something harder. I called the woman who hurt me years ago, not to reopen pain, but to tell her I had been carrying it like a poison. I told her I forgave her. I told myself I forgave myself. It was ugly and honest and necessary. Counseling followed, weekly sessions that peeled me open. Men I barely knew grabbed my shoulders and said the painful things I could not. "You are not exempt. You are not above this. We will walk you through it." I began to tell young men the truth in small groups, no sermons, just raw talk. I told them what hell looked like for a man who smiled in the light and fed himself in the dark. I learned something hard. Repentance is not a single moment. It is a long, boring, painful walk. It is deleting files at midnight and staying in the room when friends are partying. It is showing up to prayer not to perform but to be changed. My hands still tremble. Sometimes they still find the old habit. An unconscious motion toward my pocket. And sometimes the memory of that smoke reaches out and I feel the tug. But now I reach for a Bible instead. I reach for a brother instead. I reach for confession. People noticed. Not because I shouted it, but because my life became quieter and more honest. I stopped fixing my smile for cameras. I answered with truth when someone said, "How are you?" I let people see ladders leaning against the roofs of my failures, and they climbed them with me. The change did not make me perfect. It made me honest. I do not stand at the door with a fake calm anymore. I stand with my hands open. I pray differently, less performance, more broken pleading. I have a list, names of men I check on every week. I tell them my story. I tell them the images. I show them the line the presence drew in the smoke, where choice becomes consequence. Here is what I want you to hear, plain and simple. If you hide it, it will find a way to define you. One sentence. One truth. Do not let that be your story. I will tell you one more thing I do now because I cannot keep it inside. When the church meets now, I stand and ask who is watching. I mean it. I say, who is watching this right now? Where are you? And people tell me city, town, country, names I pray for. So I am asking you the same thing. Where are you watching from? Tell me. I will pray for you tonight. I will not pretend I have never fallen. I will not pretend I am better than you. I will tell you what I saw because it saved me. If you are watching and you know something is hidden, start with one step. Tell one person. Then change one habit. Then find 3 men who will not let you hide. Please, do not wait. Soft, drop your city below. I will pray. Stay with us. There are more warnings coming. Listen. If you felt conviction in your chest, this message was for you. Do not disappear. Drop your first name plus city right now. I will call your name in prayer tonight. Not a mass prayer, your name. And if you want to hear the next warning the Lord showed me, subscribe immediately. I do not know who the next video is for, but it might be you.